You know, gardeners abhor an empty bed or an empty space that could be a bed, and that is certainly the case with me. In my last video, I showed this area that's actually away from my house. It's down closer to the winery and to the vineyard that we had grown garlic in about 4 years ago, made 4 beautiful 20 by 4 foot beds, used them once and never really used them again, although they were covered up with some plastic, most of them anyway. And so I just could not stand the idea of these really wonderful garden beds just sitting there in a very sunny location that would be perfect for growing things. So in April, I planted some asparagus, figuring this would be a nice place to have an asparagus patch. And also, I had all these extra tomatoes. So I've gone ahead and I have planted 10 additional tomato plants. We're going to have tomato palooza this year here. And I planted a few peppers. And then I decided that we were going to need to get some kind of perimeter protection around the space because we're in the middle of the field. The deer just come in like crazy. So let me show you what I did since the last time I saw you. And yeah, I actually did hurt my finger, not on this project, but yeah, you don't want to know. You don't want to know. It wasn't pretty. So I'll try not to wave this finger around too much. So at any rate, I will show you what I did since the last time, my last video, when I had just been doing weed clearing and putting down hay for mulch. So now I'll bring you up to date and show you the tomatoes and the peppers and the finished beds as I've got them, and talk about what the next steps are. So now we are looking at the 2 finished beds, and they have been planted up. On the right side, there are the asparagus. And on the left side, there's a few asparagus plants at the very, very end. But you can see that I went ahead and transplanted some tomatoes. And they were really, I planted these 3 days ago, and they have perked up already. They were way outgrowing their pots and had very beaten up lower leaves. And so I went ahead and planted them. Varieties, different varieties, the same varieties I have in other places. I also put in some hot pepper plants. One's a Serrano, and I think this one is a Cayenne, Carolina Cayenne. I've got another lipstick pepper down there. And I thought I had another pepper plant somewhere. Yeah, I do, down in the middle there. I think Marconi pepper's in there. But you can see all the tomatoes. Now I do have to stake these. And you can see now on the other side where we have tarps down still. And I have decided I'm going to go ahead and utilize this entire space this year. Now the end of May, or getting close to the end of May, I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm going to use the space for a variety of things. I think I'm going to put a bunch of sunflowers down here. Of course, the crows will come in and they'll get those. But I think they'll be very pretty, and I'm going to put some of the varieties that are lower for use in flower arrangements. I think I'll go ahead and put some winter squash or pumpkins down here. Why not? And maybe I'll even do some pole beans as well, just to have vertical things growing up in this space as well. I hate to waste space, and I do like to utilize things put in things that I can then utilize all winter long, and I can always freeze those things. So next step today, well, hopefully we'll get this done today, is the perimeter fence. So the next step, you can see that we've got some T-posts laid out. We're going to go ahead and try this perimeter netting that's a critter fence. I'm not convinced that it's going to be great, but I'm hoping it just creates enough of a barrier to keep the deer in. It's 7 feet long. It's a deer netting. I call it deer netting. And we will see. I think 7 feet tall should do it. That's just a little bit of hard work pounding in those T-posts. All right, we got all the T-posts in at this point. How your arms feel, Reed?
Not bad this time. Did it with experience and sense.
And finesse.
And finesse.
And infinite strength. Well,
no. We got to meter out the strength that we've got.
To do what can be done. All right, so what we're going to do next is I'm going to go get some mulch, and I'm going to make a pathway down that center. And then Reed's going to go ahead and put as much cardboard down around this perimeter as possible so that we can help with weed management. We will place mulch here all around this about 1.5 foot, 18-inch border, and maybe even some outside, just to mitigate grass and weed pressure. And then we'll put the netting on. Right. Reed's very careful to overlay the cardboard with no gaps. That helps mitigate weeds. 1.5, we have cardboarded around 1.5 sides of this inner boundary. Unfortunately, I ran out of cardboard, so I'm going to have to retrofit that. But we're going to have a couple of days of rain, and then I'm going to be going away for a couple of days over the weekend, and I don't want to leave this open. So we're going to go ahead and put up the netting. Let me just show you what we've done and what I'm going to do this afternoon before the rain. You can see the areas where we've mulched, and this is just so I can have a border to walk on and keep the weed pressure, grass pressure out of the garden area. And then the fence, you can see where the fence post is right here. So I'll have a little temporary gate. This is not a fancy gate set up or fence set up. We're just really trying to keep the critters out. So I'll have a gate opening here where I can come in. And you can see that we've leveled and put another path in, which will be between this row and then this growing area. I've got a nice edge here on this bed where the tomatoes are growing, and I think I'm just going to go along and plant some bush beans along this inner edge. It'll cover up the soil, it will add some nitrogen in, and it'll help shade the soil from the harshness of the sun. And they will grow nicely alongside those tomatoes. Next, we've got to take the netting and get the netting up. And I also need to finish staking my tomatoes. Well, I got a row of beans planted down here. So those are lima beans.
Okay.
We got it done.
I think so.
For
another day. And then we'll expand the perimeter when that other part is ready.
We will, and which means we got to go to the grocery store anyway. We'll look for boxes, then we'll put the mulch in. And
one thing after
and then we'll plant some
step by step,
pumpkins,
inch by inch,
and maybe plant some more pole beans and sunflowers. And then people at the winery looking off the deck will have a nice thing to look at.
As if they didn't already have a beautiful area to look at.
But you know, as a gardener, I just abhor an empty bed.
Okay.
Thank you, Reed.
Okay, well, we got this far.
Got this far.
Yep.
Hope you're well. Take care. Bye.